Hello, crafters around the world. This is Anne from Odulcina. I'm coming back to an older project. Using a snippet roll, I covered the spine of the journal, and the decoration on the cover was done in a previous video using those bookmarks. They're a digital kit that I offered somewhere at the beginning of the summer. Anyway, I'll put the link in the description below for the first part of this journal and the bookmarks digitals. And now I want to decorate the pages. So what I'm doing is I have this big pile of papers that I printed with my Starter Dreamy kit. That is a Starter Dreamy kit for anyone that never started or don't have a lot of digitals. It's a real full kit to start with and create tons of projects. So I have lots of printed pages because I had some printing issues and a lot of testing as well. So I'm thinking might as well create with those. So I'm fussy cutting right now one of the page from the Starter Dreamy kit, and I'm gonna do a decoration for the journal. So I'll ink them all, and then I'm gonna create what I call a page border. So it's you glue whatever I'm gonna create, you glue it at the edge of a page, and it creates, like, instead of using a lace or fabric ruffle or a paper ruffle, you can use those page edger. And this time I'm using a coffee filter. So when I do coffee, I kind of rinse it, let it dry, and get those coffee filters already coffee stained. And I'm going to use them right now. So I just shrink them, create folds till I love the shape of it. Then I'm adding layers of different laces. So in order to work like you see me doing, I didn't cut anything of that except when I'm going to the sewing machine. But I need to plan a little bit ahead. So I have always a big basket of laces scraps around me, but I already picked a couple that were kind of good to go. I didn't know if I would use them. I picked more than what I would need, but at least they were just around me and ready to just grab something from the pile and play with it. So there was one step before that. It was to pick like 15, 20 different fabric laces or things that could go there, but I didn't plan more than that. I didn't know where I was going. So what I wanted to do is use the printable and decorate over the coffee filter, layering and then gluing or using my sewing machine. So right now I'm going to the sewing machine just because I don't know. I love the sewing machine. It flattens a little bit everything, and it's a little bit less messy than all the glue, less costly as well, because when you use the glue all the time, it can become at some point, especially if you use the fabric tack, it becomes more expensive. So I want to use a little bit more my sewing machine because it's fast, it's easy, it's not messy, and it's really cheap to use. But all of what you see right now, if you don't have a sewing machine, you can definitively just glue the layers and you'll have a similar result. I always love to add a little bow somewhere with either fancy yarns or a sari silk, chiffon silk seam binding. So this time, because it's a page border, I'm thinking I don't want it to be too bulky, maybe. So I'm using a bulb pin. It adds a little bit of like a little charm. And I'm just attaching the seam binding or the fancy yarn you're gonna see there, or the little bow with the bulb pin. So if for some reason I find my journal a little bit too bulky and I need to remove something to make it less bulky, I can always come back to this and remove the bulb pin and just replace with something more flat. So that's my thinking there, and I love using those bulb pins and I forget them most of the time. So this time I'm gonna add my little bows and the fancy yarns with the bulb pin, and I love the result. And I love the idea that I can remove them if I change my mind or add more stuff too if I want to add a little charm there or some beads at some point. Isn't it gorgeous? So I really love those coffee filters. I have a huge pile, and it's been a while now that I told my husband, okay, stop keeping them because I have just too much. And this week I was cleaning my workshop and I found that pile that I forgot about, and I thought it's time to create something out of it. I love the texture and the look of the coffee filter, but they are round. And what can we do with that, right? But then I just shrinked one, and this idea popped up in my mind, in my head, and I fell in love with that. And it's really like, try it. Don't overthink the process when you kind of shrink and fold that coffee filter. Just fold from left to right and then from up to down. Create some little curves and other mini folds to make sure you just don't have straight lines up and down. And that's it. And with the sewing machine, what I love is that I just have to stitch that ephemera piece of digital that I printed, and it sewed together all the layers, the lace behind the card and the coffee filter, and that's it. I don't need to use that much of glue and be too messy, and it's not too bulky because the sewing machine just stitch them together more flat than if you would use the glue. So I love this project. Maybe this will inspire you. This is the perfect project to do while watching a video. It becomes like a no-brainer. You can do a bunch of those and there's no risk there. You're gonna use them all. In a junk journal, like if I have 2 or 3 signatures, I can use 4 or 5 of those in just one journal, and it creates the page borders like magically, perfectly lovely. Then you just need to add a couple of paper ruffle or lace and fabric ruffles, and your junk journal edges are all done. So it's really, really, I recommend you try if you never did something similar to that. Enough talking. I'm gonna put a little music till the end of the video just so you have something to listen, but you can turn down the volume and you won't miss any information. But there's still a couple of minutes remaining for this creation, and then I'm gonna glue them to the two that I've created. I'm gonna glue them to the junk journal, and you're gonna see the result of it once glued in the journal. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.